Hey everyone, today I'm in Boulder, Colorado at the Columbia Cemetery. Now this is a really beautiful cemetery, really scenic with the mountains that are back behind me. And it's a little noisy next to this road right here, but in a weird way because of the scenery, it's still really peaceful. But I thought we would walk around, and there's one individual in particular that I want to show you and tell you a little bit about. It has to do with the Old West history. So these are the front entry gates into the cemetery, Columbia Cemetery. And on this one it says Pioneer Gateway. It's really a nice little cemetery. And they've done little things throughout to enhance it a little bit. Like this little bench here says donated by the Columbia Cemetery Conservation Corps, established in 1999. And they've got little bags for your dog if you walk your dog in here and it makes a mess or anything, and just kind of general park regulations. And it says that this cemetery was established in 1870 by a local Masonic order. And right off of the bat, right by the sign, is this little grave right here that is completely different. So I'm not sure what this is. It says Paula Andre Bachelon, it looks like, August 23rd, 1962 to May 16th, 1964. And then it has Jacques Bachelon, and it says 65 to 65. And then Valentine or Valentina over there. Well, that's really different. It's like a piece of art that they made. So it's not every day that you see anything like that. I don't know. If there's an interesting story that you find on Find a Grave, just leave it in a comment below. So this is the grave that we came here to see, and you can see that there's flowers and a flag, and then there's kind of sort of this flower pot here. A couple things inside there that I have no idea what they are. Maybe candles or something. Something in there. I kind of touched it to see if it would move. So I think that's wax to a candle. But this is the final resting place of Tom Horn. And it says in loving memory of him, 1861 to 1903. Tom Horn was a scout, cowboy, soldier, range detective, and Pinkerton agent before he turned to work as a hired killer in Wyoming. Thomas Horn Jr. was born near Memphis, Missouri on November 21st, 1860 to Thomas Horn Sr. and Mary Ann Miller Horn on their family farm. He was the fifth of 12 children, and it has been stated that his father was very abusive. When he was 14, he ran away to New Mexico and then to Arizona. By the time he was 15, he became a scout in the Army and was involved in many Indian campaigns. He also learned Spanish at the time, and he participated in the events that led to the surrender of Geronimo in 1886. After the surrender of Geronimo, Horn was discharged from the Army, and he reportedly mined for a while in Arizona. He was then involved in the Pleasant Valley War between Arizona cattlemen and sheepmen, although it was not clear which side he was on. Horn was also a skilled roper, and he won a steer roping contest in July of 1888 in Globe, Arizona. He was also a record holder in 1890 with a time of 49.5 seconds. During that same time, he began to show interest in law enforcement. In 1890, after proving himself during a short stint as a deputy sheriff in Arizona, Horn joined the Pinkerton agency as a roving gunman. Horn was able to track down dozens of outlaws and reportedly killed 17 men. Horn was pressured by the agency to resign despite his success as a tracker. They did this in order to prevent bad publicity. Horn then decided to give a try at being a cattle detective, where he worked for beef barons in Wyoming in 1894. He denied killing anyone for the Pinkertons, although he offered the same services to the cattlemen who were involved in what is known as the Johnson County War. As a stock detective, he charged $500 to $600 for each cattle rustler he shot, which he quickly proved he was good at. Tom Horn was once quoted as saying, "Killing men is my specialty. I look at it as a business proposition, and I like to think I have a corner in the market." In April of 1898, he headed to Tampa, Florida, where he was hired as a packer during the Spanish-American War. But he was discharged by September because he had contracted malaria. While healing, he headed back to Wyoming and offered his services as a gun for hire. Records show that he made his way to Colorado in 1900. There he was hired to stop cattle rustling in Browns Hole, Colorado, and went by the alias James Hicks. He boasted that he stopped cow stealing after he killed 2 area ranchers and scared the rustlers out of the area. In 1901, he was again a stock detective in Wyoming, but this would be his last stint. In mid-July, William Nickel, the 14-year-old son of a sheep rancher, was ambushed and killed in the Iron Mountain region. Allegedly, this was due to a case of mistaken identity, as the bullet was meant for his father, Kells Nickel. About a week later, Kells was shot in the arm and hip during another ambush. A U.S. Deputy Marshal named Joe LaForce suspected Horn's involvement and wanted to get to the bottom of it all. He pretended to be in need of someone to take on a rustler and do a cleanup job in Montana. Joe ended up getting Horn's confession of the murder. This famous interview was notated by a court reporter that was standing nearby and listening. Ultimately, this statement that was made by Horn proved to be his undoing. Thomas Horn was found guilty on October 23, 1902. He stated at the trial that he was drunk, but the Wyoming State Supreme Court denied him a new trial. He was sentenced to hang on November 20, 1903 in Cheyenne, Wyoming. His burial took place in this cemetery in Boulder, Colorado in the early part of December in 1903. While waiting for his execution, Horn wrote his autobiography entitled The Life of Tom Horn, written by himself, A Vindication. It was published in 1904, and it told of his tales getting Geronimo to surrender, as well as his embellishments at his killing career. The book gave him national fame as well as critics throughout the years. The book caused controversy through the statements it made, and it was alleged that the book was actually the work of Hattie Horner Lowthen. A written copy by her had been found in Denver, Colorado. Tom Horn's actual life is somewhat difficult to separate from the legends and tales, but it is thought by many historians that he committed 17 hits as a hired gunman. Tom has been immortalized in a couple of films and also a made-for-TV movie. His place in the American West has been cemented for all to see. Now next to Tom are a couple other relatives here. Elizabeth Horn and Charles Horn. Elizabeth is 1854 to 1940, and Charles is 1852 to 1930. And it says mother and father. And they are laid to rest right next to him. And if you're wanting to know where he is at, you can look for this kind of shelter thing back there. If you are in this corner of the cemetery, it's just a walk-in entrance. This is section C. The main entrance to the cemetery is over there, which is section A, I believe. That's the one where you drive in. One other thing that I noticed, besides the scenery, check out all the mountains here. This is Boulder, Colorado. And I mean, it is beautiful. Coming from Oklahoma, the weather is fantastic. There's no humidity, so I am not sweating. I love it. I know the girls, they're out shopping and stuff in an outdoor mall, and they're complaining about how hot it is. But I think we've been on vacation so long that they've already forgotten about how hot it is in Oklahoma and the humidity. But if you look at this one right here, I thought it was interesting because you can see kind of a crest here. And I'm assuming it is a family crest. You can see a lion there for Scotland, and a Celtic cross. Pretty interesting. You can see the Trinity in the center a little bit. But this says the Durwards of Boulder, may the kirk bell at Cole, Scotland toll forever. And it has a list of the different family members here, and you can see a bagpiper there on the right. And at the bottom it says the blood is strong. King Alexander II's daughter, Marjorie, and Alan Durward's 1205 to 1298, to many generations living in the Highlands of Scotland, to Alexander Durward, who brought his family to Boulder County in 1876. Pretty neat little monument right there. And there's another crest right here on that side, but it stands out right next to Tom Horn right there. So throughout this cemetery there are quite a few Union veterans, and it's pretty neat to see them. They're all decorated with the flags, and I really like that a lot. And these are from all over: Maine, Pennsylvania, Michigan, New York, Illinois. But it's just neat to see them with fresh flags like this. And here is another little patch of veterans' graves here. And they stand out. They look a little different than the rest of the markers in the cemetery. You can see flags on them, of course. Now these are just a separate little patch, and you can see periodic ones throughout the cemetery as well. On the way over, I noticed this said Reverend John Francis Smith, 1852 to 1898, and Lida Arnold, his wife, 1856 to 1915. Now this particular veterans monument, little marker, is a little newer than what the rest of those are. And this one says 1st Tennessee Infantry, Mexican War, Edmund W. Graves, Company E, November 19th, 1824 to March 20th, 1893. What's interesting about this is these particular veteran markers are facing one way, and those over here are facing the opposite way. Usually when you see these, they are all facing the same direction. And I don't know why that is. So the other thing that's interesting is there's a captain right over here that is facing towards all of these. And so that is different as well. I'm not sure the reasoning on that. It's the first time I've seen that. Spanish-American War right here. 1st Colorado Infantry, Frank Donalds. But it is a neat little cemetery to walk through. It's not real large. Lots of shade trees if you ever come here. Large monuments, small monuments. And there are some older ones that are broken like that, but not very many. It's in great shape, really. It's pretty interesting. There's this little creek, this little stream running through here, and it's really clear water. A couple ducks eating some of the grass down below, and then you can see some tree growth on that side of it, but it runs all the way through the cemetery, so there's other parts that you can actually see the water again as you go down that way. Now along the road, on the way out, I noticed this one right here. There's a champagne flute there left on a bench, and the bench states on the side, "In memory of Jane Doe," in quotation marks, identified in 2009 as Dorothy Gay Howard. So that's going to do it for today's cemetery visit. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned a little bit of something. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.